Today I'm ranking the albums by Machine Head. I'm going to be including all 11 albums and the new one, Unatoned. I'm doing this in chronological order, and you will see where I place everything on the board that is right beside me. Might be a controversial list because the one you expect to be number one may or may not be number one. Feel free to put your ranking in the comments section. This way we can all take a look at it and have a conversation about it. So let me start. I'm going to start with Burn My Eyes, the debut studio album, released on August 9th, 1994 through Roadrunner Records, considered to be one of the pioneering groove metal albums of the 90s. I think out of all the Machine Head albums, I've listened to this one the most over the years. I remember when it came out. After that, I never paid much attention to this band until many years later. I like it a lot. It doesn't sound, or it sounds a little dated because they capture what was going on in the 90s, but I don't think it holds up as well as some of the other groove metal albums, like the Pantera albums. It has great songs like Davidian with the intense energy, the groove metal of Old, the melodic aggression of A Thousand Lies, the moody tone of None But My Own, and the energetic and aggressive Block. Overall, it's not their best, but it's a strong album in their discography, so I have this one at number 4. After this is going to be an album that has a similar style, but I never really listened to it that much in the past. Next is The More Things Change, released on March 25th, 1997 through Roadrunner. Also the first album with Dave McClain on drums. This one has a similar style to Burn My Eyes. There were a few issues with it. I think some of the songs were a little slower paced and it sounds very similar to the first album. I liked a few of the songs, but I felt there was nothing here to really stand out, enough for me to want to go back to it that much. But despite this, there are some good tracks. For example, 10 Ton Hammer, that's a song they play live often. There is Take My Scars, probably my favorite. It's one of the more intense tracks. There is a track, Struck a Nerve, that really could be the title track because they say the more things change, the more they stay the same. And they continue with some more tracks with social commentary, like The Frontlines and Bad Pigs. I like that this one got a little heavier, but I think the songs on Burn My Eyes were more memorable. So for that reason, I have this one at number 7. Now after this, they're going to be starting to move into more of a nu metal direction. Next is The Burning Red. This album was released on August 9th, 1999 through Roadrunner. It was produced by Ross Robinson, also the first album with Aru Lufster on guitars. This is the album where they move into that nu metal direction, so there is some cheesiness. It has some rapping by Rob Flynn, there's some more down-tuned guitars. Despite the rapping and the nu metal, I think it's not too bad because they're able to pull it off, as some of the songs are pretty good. Although I feel their cover of Message in a Bottle brings down this album a little bit. With that being said, there are some good tracks like Desire to Fire, which opens the album, has some cool riffs. There is Blood, the Sweat, the Tears, which is a live staple, and the title track, which is very melodic. I like the fact that the lyrics are about personal struggles, so that's something I like when I listen to music. It's not too bad. I have this one at number 6. After this, they continue with a nu metal sound on the next few albums, as it was the early 2000s. Next is Supercharger, their 4th studio album. This was released on October 2nd, 2001. It was released a few weeks after 9/11, and they had to remove the single called Crashing Around You. It was already on radio and MTV supposedly, so they had to take it off. I guess it's one of those albums that has this weird conspiracy theory connected to 9/11, but it's not too bad. It suffers from trying to fit into what was popular at the time. Songs sound a little more basic. The guitar riff sounded something like Korn would be playing at the time. There's the overuse of the guitar harmonics, but that pretty much applies to every album they've ever done. There are also moments where the vocals bring down the song. But the low point on the album was the rapping on the White Knuckle Blackout that comes towards the end of the song. Despite this, there are some good tracks. I like Crashing Around You. I thought it's a good song. And I like Kick You When You're Down. That has some heavy guitar riffs. There's the atmospheric track Only the Names and the darker track Trepanation. With that being said, the songs are not strong enough to save it from being towards the bottom. So I have this one at number 10. Things get a little better on the next release though. Next is Through the Ashes of Empires. It was released on October 27th, 2003. The band starts to abandon their new metal sound and go back to their classic groove metal sound in this album. It's the album that bridges the new metal sound of the late 90s and early 2000s and connects them with the next album, which is the one that everyone talks about. Despite the change in sound, there were some hints of that new metal sound, and that could be heard on tracks like Bite the Bullet. I thought the guitars sounded very new metal at times, especially some of the early albums by the band Stained, like the Stained Dysfunction. That's what it reminded me of. With that being said, there are a lot of really good tracks here. Elegy has a cool industrial sound with some really heavy guitar riffs. In the Presence of My Enemies has some powerful drumming. They get experimental with some of the atmospheric tracks like Days Turn Blue to Gray. There's also the track All Falls Down that shows off the band's ability to balance the heavy and atmospheric sounds. It's one of those albums I had never listened before preparing for this ranking video. I thought it was a solid addition to the discography. For that reason, I have it at number 5. And now, this is the album everyone talks about. We're talking about The Blackening, released on March 27, 2007. This is the band's Master of Puppets. This is their Appetite for Destruction. This is their Paranoid. So in other words, it's the album everyone makes a reference to when comparing the other albums. It has longer, more complex songs. There are hints of progressive metal on some of the tracks. The guitar playing is much more technical compared to the simple riffs of the early albums. And the lyrics tackle darker subjects such as war, religion, and personal struggles. Despite this, the album's not completely flawless. Some of the songs are longer than they need to be. And there are a few examples of songs that are a little cheesy. I think the chorus to the track Halo, which goes like this: Halo, follow, solo, swallow. But anyway, these are minor nitpicks just to justify the fact that I'm not going to put this at number 1. So spoiler alert right there. But to tell the truth, it's a good album. Clenching the Fist of Descent is really powerful album opener, which has a cool atmospheric intro with that acoustic melody that gets super heavy afterwards. Then there is Aesthetics of Hate, which was their answer to the murder of Dimebag Darrell, and they really expressed their anger in that song. There are also a few songs where they get melodic, such as Now I Lay Thee Down, so it's not all heaviness start to finish. I know most fans have this at number 1, but I have it at number 2, only because there's one album I thought that was slightly better than this. And now let's talk about the next album. Next is Unto the Locust, released on September 27, 2011. This is the album that continues the sound they had on The Blackening. But I feel they took more risks and they experiment a little more. This one also has lyrics more metaphorical and delve into deeper subjects like mortality. I don't have many criticisms except for that sometimes the songs feel they're too long. It's just a minor criticism. And then there's also Darkness Within, which is kind of a ballad, which I actually like, but I think it might bring down the album a little bit. I think the one thing that puts us above The Blackening is the fact that they took a few more chances by adding classical music elements and orchestration. This album opens with I Am Hell, Sonata in C Sharp, which has some religious chanting in the intro, but it develops into a darker song filled with killer guitar riffs. There are the neoclassical guitar riffs of Be Still and Know and the atmospheric sound of Locust. That brings back some of that classic groove sound. This is the end, also mixes classical music with metal. Then there's the track Pearls Before Swine, which shows off their heavy groove metal sound. The last song, Who We Are, has the children's choir and orchestra. Seems like a risk for this type of album, but they made it work. In the end, I think this is the better album, and I have this one at number 1. Next album continues a streak of putting out great albums in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Next, I have Bloodstone Diamonds, their 8th studio album, released on November 7, 2014 through Nuclear Blast. There was a slight lineup change. They brought in a new bass player, whose name is Jared McEachern, and he replaced Adam Duce in 2013. It's another album that's solid. It continues the streak they were on with The Blackening and Unto the Locust. It has some of the same criticisms with feeling a little too long. There's a spoken word instrumental track called Imaginal Cells, which is kind of a filler, and I'll be talking about that on some of the next few albums as well. They have a tendency to do that, but I think that one track might bring this down a little bit. Otherwise, it's solid. It begins with a track, Now We Die. It starts off the album with violins, and you don't know what's going to happen next, and then There's a straightforward and aggressive Killers and Kings, the classic groove of Ghost Will Haunt My Bones, the thrash metal of Night of Long Knives, the acoustic guitars of Sail Into the Black, and the sludgy, moody, atmospheric Beneath the Silt. I have this at number 3. Another one I only listened to for the first time in preparation for doing this ranking. So this is really considered the last really good album. The quality starts to take a dip on all the albums after this. Next is Catharsis, their 9th studio album, released on January 26, 2018 through Nuclear Blast. This is the last album to feature Phil Demel and drummer Dave McClain, and the album where they took a chance, but it really didn't work out. The album seems to jump around without having a clear focus. They're bringing back some of that new metal and rap metal. It doesn't really seem to make sense considering it's 2018. It's very long. It's over 74 minutes long. It just feels very long and tedious listening to it from front to back. I remember listening to it to prepare for this, and I keep thinking, like, is this thing going to be over? And then I look and there's like 5 more tracks left. So that's how I felt. And I think their low point is this acoustic punk song called Bastards, which is kind of a weird track. But other than that, it's not completely horrible. It's an album that's listenable. For example, you have the new metal influence of Volatile, the groove metal sound of Catharsis, the heavy thrash of Kaleidoscope, and the atmospheric Heavy Lies the Crown. So when it comes to ranking, I'm going to put this one at the bottom. I don't hate it. I don't mind listening to a few songs. Like, I can pull a few songs and put them on a playlist. I don't mind that. But it's an album to listen to front to back. It's just very long. So now this is number 11, by the way. Now I'm at the last 2. So let's see where they fall. And I'll get to the new album in a minute. Next is Of Kingdom and Crown. Released on August 26, 2022 through Nuclear Blast. It's a concept album set in a futuristic wasteland with 2 characters who go on this killing spree after they lose loved ones. I remember this very well. I reviewed it when it came out. Another one that feels long. Rob Flynn's vocals are not in top form, and the album has a few tracks that are not very memorable. This is the album where they start to put that weird slash through the letter O, which supposedly it was for aesthetic reasons, but it doesn't make sense because it's part of the Danish and Norwegian alphabet, so it's an actual letter in alphabet, so it doesn't make sense. But the band could have designed another letter that doesn't exist, and they could have claimed it as their own, but that's neither here nor there. The album has a few moments. It's you got the aggressive Slaughter the Martyr, the thrash metal of Choke on the Ashes of Your Hate, the melodic My Hands Are Empty, the classic groove Kill Your Enemies, and the anthemic No Gods, No Masters. Those are all pretty good songs. Overall, not too bad. I liked it when it came out. Not the kind of album I have listened to on repeat over the past 3 years. I haven't gone back to it that much, but I have it at number 8. So now I'm going to review the new album. You know by now it ranks at number 9, so I don't really need to tell you that. So the last album is Unatoned, their 11th album, released on April 25th, 2025, through Nuclear Blast. It's kind of a continuation of the last album. This album is not too bad. It has a few issues. There are a few short instrumentals that could have been cut from the album. There was the album Closer called Scorn, which kind of sounds like they're going for this Slipknot or a Stone Sour type of ballad. And I can't get over the fact that when he does clean singing, he sounds like Aaron Lewis on Stained. But despite the criticism, I think it has a good front half. You have the heavy guitar riffs of Atomic Revelations, the almost deathcore of Unbound, the classic groove of Outsider. There is the Scars Won't Define Us, which is probably the best track on the album, and then Bone Scraper and Addicted to Pain, which are decent tracks. Overall, not too bad. I have it at number 9. If I were to do a full review and give it a score like I usually do, I'd probably say a 7 out of 10. So that's all. If you want to hear more about this, I recently did an episode of Is It That Bad? I'm going to link it here, or I will try to link it there. If I can't, I'll put a link in the video description. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please give the video a like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.